Welcome back to the channel, survivors. The big update that I just mentioned in yesterday's video has actually officially launched here for ARK Survival Ascended, and it is a lot to unpack. We're talking fixes, changes, and a massive, and I mean massive, nerf that is surely gonna shake things up. Let's dive into the details. So first things first, let's dive into the update. Now, this list is very extensive and very long. As I said, it is a major update. However, I'm not gonna bore you guys and read every single thing line for line, because you guys can do that yourself. What I do want to do is actually take some time here and pull out some really big important ones that I think do affect everybody and are significantly bigger or more important compared to a lot of the other bugs and fixes. All right, so the very first one obviously relates to Catapults and Ballistas. Now, Catapults, they were not dealing damage on multiplayer servers. I actually experienced this myself when trying to use one to tame a Carcanos, or the giant crab thing on the Aberration map, and it just wasn't working. So again, they've got this fixed now. Hopefully we can utilize the catapult feature to then once again tame these guys. Not only that, the Ballista had a hit registration problem where you would utilize it several times, and maybe out of like 10 shots, only 3 of them would actually hit the target or register on the target. So again, they have addressed that issue, and now you should be able to utilize those correctly on the Aberration map. Now, the second one relates to Aberation's Rockwell boss fight. Now, I know a lot of players, including people on my community server, have had issues directly related to this fight, and it's all crazy when it comes to the different issues and stuff that people have had or experienced, but they have actually taken the time to address some of these here for the community and hopefully cleared up a lot of this stuff for players to actually properly ascend and achieve, you know, the Rockwell fight. Some of the stuff addressed was the level cap increase issues. Those have been resolved. We have all the cutscene bugs being resolved now, so you should be able to watch all of the cutscenes without any issues, and even the issue people had with shoulder pets disappearing should now also be addressed. They should no longer disappear, but then actually transfer with you outside of the boss arena. And lastly, they fixed a nasty crash that was sometimes happening during the Rockwell boss fight, and so that should no longer take place anymore, and you should be able to continue the fight as intended. And then last but not least, they also addressed a light flickering bug that was happening on console for players. Well, I'm a PC player, and I still, for some reason, are experiencing this light flickering periodically. It doesn't happen every single time, but I'm really hoping that they can get this addressed and fixed for PC players as well. If you guys are on console, let me know if this is fully fixed for yourself. And that's just a quick overview. There are plenty of bugs and fixes and crash updates here that I did not specifically mention. As I said before, I do encourage you guys to go check out the entire list for yourself if you guys are an active player here for ARK Survival Ascended. Now let's talk about the huge Pyro main nerf. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about here, Pyro mains, ever since they were added to Aberration, have been harped on by the player base. People have been complaining left and right that these guys should not be on the Aberration map. I've heard everything from players arguing that it's a creature that doesn't fit the map and the map aesthetics, and therefore it should be removed. And then I've heard the side of the creature being full on pay to win because it is part of the Fantastic Tames DLC that is a paid DLC for players to interact with it and tame it and use it. Well, again, we haven't heard anything official from Wildcard up until today. They have now finally put out, with this major update, a major nerf for the Pyro main. And I say major because I'm actually quite surprised that it's this much. So here's the breakdown. First, the Pyro main's drag weight has been reduced now to 149. If you guys don't know what that means, the drag weight of a creature inside of ARK Survival Ascended determines a lot of different things. Like, can that creature be carried by other creatures, right? Like, you know, can a RG pick it up, for instance? It also determines, can a creature be bola'd? And in this case, dropping it down to 149, that is actually the cap for a creature being bola'd, meaning the Pyro main now can officially be bola'd by players. And man, that's going to make a massive difference for the survival aspect of people utilizing something like a bola on the Aberration map. Next up here, the damage scaling of the Pyro main was actually reduced by 20%, which is a huge margin. So across the board, they're going to be doing 20% less damage. And not only that, they've also doubled the cooldown of the dash ability that the Pyromane can use. I know a lot of people were upset when this first launched into the game, especially on official PvP, because it was just simply unfair. Well, it has now went from being a 6-second cooldown to a full 12-second cooldown, which is a massive difference here. And last but not least, they've also reduced the Pyromane spawn percentage by 75% on Aberration. So it's going to be a lot harder for players to find Pyromanes if you are looking to tame some, but for those that, were clearly running into them or just wanted them gone from the map, it's going to be a lot easier for you to now survive, as there should be 75% less of them on the map. These changes are really huge, and I'm honestly very curious to know how this affects players' usability of the Pyromane long term. Will players continue to pick and choose to tame that over other creatures, especially on something like Aberration? I want to know what your guys' thoughts are. Let me know down below in the comments. Do you think these nerfs are right on and that this is absolutely warranted, or do you think that the Pyromane still should be completely removed from the Aberration map? And speaking on the new Aberration map, if you find yourself struggling to survive, be sure to check out my guide you see here on screen as I do a deep dive into the essentials must-know tips and tricks for every single player.